New this week, Future Tales from Outlaw Comics and Wild North Art Incorporated, written by Phillip Tarl Denson, with art from all of these people. Future Tales is a recent, unique comic book anthology set in a post-apocalyptic, cyberpunk-tinged world populated with familiar fairy tale characters and settings, but with all new circumstances. Which is just immediately such a unique and fun premise, it makes you wonder why this has never been done before. And more alluring is that this book is brought to you by over 10 different artists, all contributing their art to the different sections and chapters of the story, which all combine in the end to one big finale epic chapter. If you grew up falling in love with fairy tales and reading in general, like me, then this will certainly pique your interest, providing the characters you know and love with vastly different stakes and conflicts in a science fiction setting, but with the same recognizable character traits that make them so iconic. Additionally, if you're a fan of detailed, fleshed-out dystopian science fiction, Future Tales is definitely an indie comic that you don't want to miss out on. Let's talk more specifically about Future Tales Volume 1, which means spoilers ahead. But because this is an indie comic review, it's just going to be a few minor spoilers, just enough to get you excited about wanting to check out the book. Arguably the main character of this story, appearing in multiple chapters of this volume, is the character Red, who is, of course, based on the fairy tale counterpart, Little Red Riding Hood. When I happened across this Kickstarter last month, I flipped through the description and I saw the character of Red, and I wondered how they were going to make such a simple character interesting and engaging in this far-flung science fiction setting. In the first chapter of this series, I got an immediate, satisfying answer to that question, as we learn about Red's function in this post-apocalyptic society as a rider between various resistance colonies in Grim City. However, we also quickly learn that the surface world is patrolled by the World Order Liberation Force, or WOLF, soldiers who are cybernetically enhanced in some way, and are intent on hunting down anyone who doesn't agree with their authoritarian rule. Which leads to an amazing action sequence where Red uses her hood technology in order to create a holographic image of herself in order to disorient the soldiers and take them out one by one like an assassin. This first chapter was such a well-executed, simple, engaging introduction to the world of the story without being super overt. It set the tone for the kind of inventive qualities that Future Tales has to offer for its fairy tale source material. My favorite chapter in this entire volume, though, has to be Chapter 4, Jack, which is influenced by the classic tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. Also, random side note here, does anybody remember that Jack and the Beanstalk HBO miniseries from like the mid-1990s? It was one of my favorite things as a kid, and it would just randomly air on the PBS channel, and if it was on, then I was watching. It was such a great, spooky, modern adaptation of that story. Anyway, the Jack chapter in Future Tales, which is what we're talking about, focus, who is another smuggler/scavenger type on the surface world, who inadvertently happens upon the Skytube elevator that deposits the wolf soldiers on the surface, and he decides to venture into the elevator and go back up into the aerial fortress above the destroyed surface world. Again, this is such an ingenious incorporation of this classic fairy tale in the world of this dystopian story, as Jack functions as the... What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you so small? As Jack sort of functions as the eyes of the reader, discovering the mystifying inner workings of the world-conquering wolf organization. These are just a few highlights from this truly unique and exciting new comic book anthology, which we don't have enough of. The unconscious act throughout this entire volume of trying to discover what character or aspect of a famous fairy tale is going to be incorporated next makes for a really engaging read. I don't want to spoil the entire cast of characters or events, as I want you to check out the book yourself. Please check out Future Tales. It's available on the Wild North Comics site as well as Amazon. And support the plethora of indie comic book creators from around the world who made this book possible. Here's the main cover for Future Tales. This is already a draw to the book. This feels like a Netflix show as opposed to a graphic novel. Another great highlight from this comic is that every chapter gives us a cool character piece cover. Just a snippet of that amazing action sequence I hinted at with Red and her hood. Here's the character cover for the Jack story. I love this so much. And this is just such a cool image. It makes you want to learn more about the world in general. I hope they come back for a volume 2.